Welcome to episode 83. I have here Melvin with me. Welcome to my show, Melvin. Yeah, it's actually Yvonne Melvin, but yes.
Appreciate
Um,
it.
yeah, no worries. Yeah, so can you let the listeners and our listeners and audiences know a little bit about yourself?
My name is Melvin Henley. I am uh, in Chicago, Illinois. I have quite a few businesses. I have a construction company. I started a development um, arm. I have a nonprofit, and we work with youth. I am a investor in a couple restaurants, and I just co-authored some books with Les Brown and Kevin Harrington from Shark Tank.
Sure. Wow, amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, let's take a different track now. Let's take
Okay,
a dive through like childhood, how growing up was, and some of the challenges and some of the joy you had growing up.
okay. So I grew up with both my parents. I am the oldest of two, but my
Okay.
brother did not come around for 12 years. So I was the only child for 12
Uh,
years.
yeah. Mm.
And also, I grew up a Jehovah's Witness. So, being in a household where my father was an elder in the congregation and my mom was a pioneer, which was basically a how can I explain it? She did a lot of field ministry work.
Oh,
Um, yeah, so I grew up like that.
okay. Like a lot of hands-on and just getting out there and doing what you got,
Yeah,
basically.
yeah.
Working up.
I did a lot of speaking. I did a lot of speaking to audiences as well as strangers. So I learned that from a young age.
Oh, okay. How did that start?
Actually, through the religion, through being a Jehovah's Witness, going door to door.
Oh,
So I
okay.
used to, when I would act bad, quote unquote, in school, and then on Saturdays or Sundays go out to the territory and then see some of my classmates. It was always funny, man. They would
Yeah.
catch me and they like, see, I'm gonna tell on you.
Yeah, yeah. And what was kind of like those struggles growing up?
Well, um, I would say probably being in that environment, uh, obviously made me different. And
Yeah.
so I didn't celebrate holidays. I didn't celebrate my birthday. I didn't have the latest Jordans in Chicago. Jordan, Michael Jordan was famous, so or is famous, so didn't have the latest Jordans all the time, and so it just presented challenges of trying to fit in
Yeah.
with some of those uh, background differences.
Mm.
And I found a way to do it. I didn't necessarily find the best way to do it, but I did. Uh, you know, I kind of dumbed down myself and became a
Oh,
class clown and the comic relief, and that was a way that I could kind of
fit
um,
into that
fit
identity.
in, yeah, with my peers. But it got to a point where it wasn't beneficial anymore, and so I had
So
to stop being the
self.
yeah, exactly, self-sabotaging. I had to stop being the class clown and actually stand up in my academics, and then I became a valedictorian. Um,
Woo.
so I worked myself to that honor.
And what were some of like the joys growing up?
So uh, I kind of told you something that people might think would be negative, but the positive of that is my family on both sides respected my father and my mother's wishes, but I would still get gifts. I would just get them either the day before Christmas or the day after Christmas, or I would still, so I never really had to experience being left out 100%, right?
Wow.
And it grew to a point where because I had my father and he would take us on trips and we would go camping, and we would have picnics, and we would have anniversary parties I would go to, or whatever, block parties, whatever, to uh, show me that there was more than just those one or a few days that I felt like I would be missing out on was a real joy. Seeing my father speak in front of a lot of people and, garner the uh, reverence from members of all over, that was a huge joy. And then seeing my mother support my father, I always give my credit to my dad, but my mom is actually the backbone of the family, and she
Yeah.
really showed me how, you know, uh, how a woman compliments her husband, or compliments her man. In this day and age, things are different, but, you know, based on my upbringing, um, I look for traits in my woman similar to what my mom, exuded while I was growing up.
Yeah. And what would you say like that religious aspect kind of like evolved you, or like some of those things came with it being really religious?
Um, well, I rebelled against it, obviously. And
Yeah.
I say obviously because I'll tell you why I say
Obviously.
obviously. But I rebelled against it. I ended up getting married at 17 because, I married my high school sweetheart. We were virgins. And then once I got a taste, I couldn't stop. I couldn't stop. So we ended up getting married, and we lasted 8 years. So I would say that experience, it shaped me to, uh, I think about it like this: every 5 to 7 years, there's a new life cycle, and those earlier life cycles, when I put them all together, the culmination of the evolution of me over those years is who I am now. So I do, sometimes I question, man, would I do it again? And I'm always curious to see who I would be if I didn't get married at 17, if I didn't grow up, as a Jehovah's Witness, if I didn't take a certain career path. But I overall, I feel very happy with my choices. And even the ones that didn't turn out well, I've made peace with them.
Yeah, so what were some of the ventures you first started? Like, well, what was like the job, finding that job, or how was that for you?
So my very first job, and I'm taking you through the high school years, and I'll
Yeah.
be quick. I was a stock person and bagger at Shop and Save. Right?
Okay.
That's like 15. Then one of my favorite jobs was Corner Bakery. That's a cafe here in Chicago. They're sprinkled all throughout, but I worked in the one downtown. So I worked at Corner Bakery, and I ended up being a barista. And
Yep.
just real talk, that was, let's say, 2000. Well, I haven't made a cappuccino or a latte or a mocha in 20 years. But
Wow.
I went to a real estate event last weekend, and we went on lunch. And so I went to a close local bar, and I didn't want to get a drink, so I ate and I asked for a cappuccino. Well,
Mm-hmm.
he actually asked me to make it and show him how to make it, and I could recall it from 20 years ago. It was perfect.
Wow.
It was mine, so I didn't have to make it for nobody else. But obviously, I remembered how to do that from 20 years ago. Then I worked at Old Navy. But once I went to DePaul University, um, I ended up working at Old Navy in second shift, and that got too hard because I went through an accelerated program at DePaul,
Yeah.
and that allowed me to go 8 hours a day, Monday through Friday. So it concised an associate's degree in 8 months, but I had to really stay committed to it, and I tested into that program. But long story short, I ultimately became a union carpenter. I did not necessarily want to do website development and e-commerce back then, and now I wish I would have stuck with it. But I became a union carpenter, and I went through the apprenticeship program. I am now a 22-year union carpenter, but I started my business in construction 7 years ago, and I just made 7 years November 21st.
Ooh,
So there's
congrats.
a true progression of careers. I did multi-level marketing, sold insurance briefly. You know, there's some interesting stories in my career
Yeah,
life.
yeah, for sure. And how come you shifted to carpentry?
Well, my dad was a carpenter, and so one thing he told me was, um, if you learn a trade, you can take that anywhere in the world. And for the first time in my life last year, that became true. I mean, obviously, I learned the trade prior to that, and I did travel through different states. But last year, I was invited to go to Venice, Italy, and
Ooh,
we built an exhibit. My company, as well as a nonprofit collaboration, we built an exhibit here, dismantled it, put it in a shipping container, sent it over to Venice, and then we ended up flying over there and assembling it for a architectural biennale or biennial event that happens every 2 years. So that was my first time out the country, and that was my first time out the country for my business. So that was
uh,
pretty cool. So I thought about, as I'm, over there in Italy, I'm thinking about what my father told me and how this trade that I took with my hands allowed me to, uh, be a part of a worldwide event.
yeah, cool, amazing. It must have been pretty hard just to establish a business though.
You know, it's difficult. Even in 7 years, there's challenges. A lot of times, because I did not come from a wealthy family, and I'm not trying to make any,
Mm,
sad stories or anything, but I didn't come from a wealthy family, and so when my father passed, he did have life insurance. Um, I did take the life insurance portion that I received and invested it, and I think that helped me get started, but I never have had enough. I've always had just enough, and I've made enough, but it's never been enough. And I think that's one of the hardest issues that we end up having as entrepreneurs is capital resources. You know, and that transcends no matter what industry.
yeah,
Construction industry, beauty industry, entertainment industry, whatever industry, it's said across the board that not having enough capital and resources definitely puts a strain on the business.
yeah. And what were some of like the internal struggles you have with yourself and still trying to overcome to this day?
Yeah, so I would say self sabotage. We
Yeah,
kind of talked about that. Um, uh, you know, and with that, it's unique because it's not that I purposely do anything to destroy my goals but it's more so the ideology of, well, maybe I'm not good enough for this, or maybe,
yeah,
I don't know enough, and, and that paralysis, uh, can sometimes stop you from taking opportunities. Sometimes, uh, you know, you're able to, experience, I would say, not just self sabotage, but that feeling of FOMO, fear of missing out. And so I think some of those have been challenges that I've experienced, and I'm still working on right now, working my way through it.
amazing, amazing. Yeah, it's always a struggle growing up and having those challenges. Yeah, so what are you doing currently? You have a business?
hmm hmm
How
So I this month was a transformative month. Um, the first through the 3rd of November, I was in a master class for wealth.
mm,
I went to from the 8th from the 7th to the 10th, I was in Florida, St. Petersburg, and Tampa for the book signing with Kevin Harrington.
mm,
I came back, and then the 18th through the 21st, I was in uh, I was with Les Brown, and the 18th was my birthday. The 21st, my business made 7 years, and then last week I went through a 3-day master class for real estate.
Oh, wow.
So that's what I'm doing now. I'm doing a lot of
Keep, keeping yourself busy.
investments in myself, a lot of classes, a lot of meeting people, networking, and then my business obviously is still working. But I have a vice president, I have a full staff
Oh, wow.
with employees, so I don't have to be as hands on as when
Yeah.
I first started out.
Yeah. It must have been insane, the working hours in the beginning.
Yeah, it was. It was 23/7.
Oh,
An hour to, and obviously I'm being facetious a little bit,
yeah.
but it was a lot. It's
Yeah,
definitely a lot.
I would imagine. And to end off our segment, what would you say being limitless means to you?
So being limitless, that's a very good question. Being limitless to me means that, I hate to use words to describe words, but there you have no limit. You have unlimited whatever you believe. So I would say if I was to define what I would like to be limitless in, I think my reach. I want a limitless reach, right? And the only way I can do that is if I continue to sharpen my skills, my soft skills, my hard skills as well. But I want to be able to speak to my story. I want to be able to mentor people. I started out doing that in construction, but it's more into just life uh, um, mentoring. And you always think that you have to be 100% ready, but you don't have to be ready. You just need to be 100% sure that you want to start, or at least have that conviction. And so I think not putting limits on myself has really helped me. Every fourth quarter since probably 2016, 2015, 2016,
Mhm.
I've been intentional in my focus to do something that is going to catapult me into the next year. And like I just mentioned, I have book signings. Those books are going to come out in the next 30 to 60 days. I have a couple of awards that I'll be receiving. And a lot of that pushes me to do more the next year. So I do feel like I'm constantly leveling up. And I do buy into I have limitless potential and a limitless, you know, opportunity in multi-level marketing. I'll finish with this. In multi-level marketing, they preach how there's three bubbles of knowledge. There's the smallest bubble of the things that you know. The second bubble is the things that you know that you do not know. But that largest bubble is the things that you do not know that you do not know. So that takes and encompasses so much that we are restricted by our, perhaps ethnicity or our demographics, where we grew up at, our background. And there's so many things that we don't even know that we do not know. So I would think that I'm trying to operate in that bubble to truly become limitless so that I can learn things that I never knew before.
Amazing, amazing. Wow. Yeah, that is limitless. Yeah. And those small wins are catapulting you and those achievements to keep going forward.
Correct.
Yeah, amazing. And where can our viewers or listeners find about more about you?
Well, I would say that you can obviously follow me on Instagram at the Carpentry King. I am on TikTok as the Carpentry King as well. LinkedIn, it's Melvin Henley, but it's Melvin Henley in Chicago. And then to see some of our work that we've done as a construction company here in Chicago and see the Italy exhibit, you can go to www.pacleaders.construction. So that's PAC leaders with an S construction, and that's our domain. It's not .com. It's www.packleaders.construction.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you so much, Melvin.
Yes, indeed. I really appreciate you having me on and putting me on the spot.